Hello, and thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Odile Macia, and I've curated the exhibition We Can Do It, Wars Are the Voices, in partnership with Imperial War Museums and with the support of the Art Fund. It is a pleasure to welcome tonight Paris Agar, Senior Curator at Imperial War Museums, for a talk about the Battle of Britain and art of the Second World War in connection with this exhibition. Thank you, Paris.
Thank you, Odile, for that introduction. So, yes, my name is Paris Agar, and I am a Senior Curator at Imperial War Museums. I have had the huge pleasure of working in partnership with Touchstone's Rochdale for their exhibition, We Can Do It, Wars Are the Voices. With generous support from the Art Fund, Imperial War Museums has been able to loan 2 artworks to Touchstone's Rochdale for the exhibition. Imperial War Museums, or IWM for short, selected these works to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Britain in 2020, and they are now on display alongside art, objects, and stories from Touchstone's Rochdale's own collection relating to the Second World War. The 2 artworks from IWM are An Aerial Battle by Francis Dodd and Untitled by Eileen Agar. During this talk, I'm going to explore these artworks with the wider context of the Battle of Britain and delve deeper into how artists documented, interpreted, and responded to the Second World War more generally. I will also highlight the ways in which artists' work was displayed across Britain for the enjoyment of the general public via touring exhibitions. The Battle of Britain was a spectacle of the kind never experienced before. During the summer and autumn of 1940, swirling dogfights between the Royal Air Force Fighter Command and German Luftwaffe took place in the skies over southern England, captivating those observing on the ground. The weaving white contrails of iconic aircraft, including the Supermarine Spitfire, the Hawker Hurricane, the Messerschmitt Bf 109, became the focus for a group of artists who endeavoured to capture not only the sight, but also the feeling of this major air campaign. In An Aerial Battle by Francis Dodd, dated the 6th of September 1940, a black cat sits on a garden wall, seemingly unaware of the recent aerial dogfight which has taken place in the skies above. The aircraft themselves are not visible, but their fading interlaced contrails reveal the tight manoeuvres made between the RAF and the Luftwaffe. Francis Dodd served as a war artist in both the First and Second World Wars and lived in Blackheath in southeast London, an area which he repeatedly drew and painted until his death in 1949. This scene could indeed be the view from his back garden, looking out beyond the trellised wall to a row of bushy trees, which are heavy with green foliage, having not yet turned the autumnal colours synonymous with September. And floating just above them are several white barrage balloons. Operated by RAF Balloon Command, barrage balloons were used to protect cities from air attack. They forced German aircraft to operate at higher altitudes, reducing the accuracy of their bombing, and made dive bombing almost impossible. Dodd's painting conveys the simultaneous proximity and distance of the Battle of Britain. Aerial combat and defences are evident in the sky, but life seemingly goes on below. While pilots were defending Britain from above, in fact, thousands were supporting from below, from ground crew to factory workers, operations room staff to anti-aircraft gunners. The Women's Auxiliary Air Force, or WAF for short, which was a component of the RAF, was an essential presence, maintaining aircraft, operating radar, code breaking, and much more. In the early stages of the Battle of Britain, Corporal Joan Pearson, a medical attendant, was awarded the Empire Gallantry Medal, later replaced with the George Cross, for bravery, propelling her as a shining example of the capabilities and dedication of the WAF. Her citation, published in the London Gazette on the 19th of July 1940, read, "On the 31st of May 1940, an hour after midnight, an aircraft crashed near the Women's Auxiliary Air Force quarters at Detling in Kent, the pilot being seriously injured, another officer killed outright, and 2 airmen slightly injured. Upon hearing the crash, Corporal Pearson rushed out, and although she knew there were bombs on board, she stood on the wreckage, roused the pilot who was stunned, released his parachute harness, and helped him to get clear. When she got to about 30 yards from the wreckage, a 120-pound bomb went off, and Corporal Pearson threw herself on top of the pilot to protect him from the blast and splinters. She remained with him until a stretcher party arrived, and then returned to the burning aircraft to look for the fourth member of the crew. She found him, the wireless operator, dead in the bomber. Her prompt and courageous action undoubtedly helped to save the pilot's life. Well-established war artist Dame Laura Knight was commissioned to paint Corporal Pearson, a portrait which would influence the design for WAF recruitment posters throughout the Second World War. Pearson is shown seated in a blue uniform, wearing a helmet and holding a respirator. She looks pensively skywards, her visible teeth are clenched in concentration, preparing herself in case her assistance is required again by those flying above. Before the Second World War, artist Dame Laura Knight was renowned for her paintings of circus and ballet performers. From 1939, she was given a series of short-term contracts by the War Artists Advisory Committee to document women's roles in the war. As well as Knight's portrait of Corporal Pearson, IWM holds Ruby Loftus screwing a breech ring from 1943, which depicts 21-year-old Ruby Loftus, an outstanding factory worker who had mastered complex engineering skills in a very short space of time. In this photograph, Loftus meets Minister of Labour Ernest Bevin at her factory in Newport in Wales. Almost 7 million women were working in factory jobs like this one by 1944, whereas before the war, women's work had been limited to jobs such as servants and housekeepers. In a balloon site Coventry, also from 1943, several members of the WAF in blue uniform are shown hoisting a barrage balloon into position just outside the city of Coventry. Knight emphasises the coordinated physical performance skills of the balloon team, much like her earlier circus subjects. In the background, the city skyline has already been damaged from air attack. Surrounding the city with barrage balloons was a way of preventing this from happening again. Coventry was a target for the Luftwaffe because the city had many factories and businesses which were crucial to the war effort. The city's historic streets and buildings were also destroyed by the air raids, and even Coventry Cathedral was left in ruins. Astoundingly, the cathedral spire survived, and you can see it in the centre of this painting. Artists such as Frances Dodd and Laura Knight were commissioned by the War Artists Advisory Committee, or WAAC for short, which was a government body established by the Ministry of Information. It launched in November 1939 with the purpose of commissioning artists to record the Second World War. Over 400 artists contributed to the scheme, some on full-term contracts, some short-term, while others sold or donated to the committee. The WAAC was led by the director of the National Gallery in London, Sir Kenneth Clarke. At the outbreak of war, the decision was made to evacuate the collection at the National Gallery, resulting in empty gallery space. From July 1940 to the end of the war, this was used by the WAAC to display exhibitions of war artists' work for the general public. Selections of artworks from these exhibitions then toured to a number of museums and galleries in towns and cities across Britain, the itinerary for which was organised by the Museums Association. The exhibitions were in high demand, but Rochdale Art Gallery, now Touchstones Rochdale, secured one, displaying war pictures by British artists between July 17th and August 7th, 1943. In the exhibition catalogue, over 50 artworks are listed, including Laura Knight's portrait of Corporal Pearson. 21 male artists were represented in the exhibition and 3 female artists, Laura Knight, Eve Kirk and Evelyn Dunbar. Evelyn Dunbar wrote to the WAAC in December 1939 offering her services. At the time, she was working in her sister's haberdashery shop, having abandoned a plan to open an art gallery due to the war. From March 1940, she documented the women's voluntary service, including Land Army activities and ambulance drivers, and in August 1941, she was specifically commissioned to paint nursing subjects for 35 guineas. She produced this painting, entitled Standing By on Train 21, which toured to Rochdale in the 1943 exhibition. In the catalogue, the description reads, "Here, nurses and orderlies are on duty in a hospital train, ready for emergencies. This involves many hours of waiting. The nurses are obviously making the best possible use of their time. You can see the concentration on the nurses' faces as they work on their knitting in the foreground, while another nurse, seen through a doorway in the distance, appears to hang white sheets on a clothing line. At the centre of the painting, a male figure slouches in his seat, holding a paper, while another male figure behind him holds his chin and looks towards a very small open window, which incidentally is the only indication of there being an outside world from this train. There is an overall sense in the painting that these people are waiting and have been waiting a long time." Evelyn Dunbar was only one of 2 female artists to be employed by the WAAC on a full-term contract. She was a prolific painter, but throughout her dealings with the committee, she voiced concern about whether she was producing enough or working quickly enough. She often expressed her pleasure in the work and her enthusiasm for further commissions. At the same time Evelyn Dunbar was contacted by the WAAC in 1940, artist Ethel Gabain was commissioned to produce a series of lithographs. Gabain was a founder member of the Sennefelder Club, an organisation formed in London in 1909 to promote lithography as an art form. She created 2 series of lithographs, one called Children in Wartime, which focused on evacuee children, and Women's Work in the War, which documented the work of the women's voluntary services. A nursery school, Watlington Park, from the Children in Wartime series, shows children playing outdoors, with some holding freshly picked flowers, and nurses can be seen talking in a group in the background. Around 10,000 children under the age of 5 were evacuated from nurseries in cities to the country. Over 150 stately homes in England, like Watlington Park, served as nursery homes during the Second World War to provide these small children with skilled supervision and care. From Gabain's Women's Work in the War collection, work on a weir pump details the interior of a factory full of heavy machinery. In the foreground, a woman in overalls stands behind engineering equipment, making an important component of a weir pump, a piece of apparatus designed to keep a ship clear of bilge water. Essentially, any water that comes aboard the ship gathers in the bilge. Similar to Laura Knight, Gabain documents the intricacies and importance of women's work at this time. Reproductions of both of these lithographs are currently on display at Touchstones Rochdale. Gabain continued to produce artwork for the WAAC throughout the war, including portraits of notable women. At the end of the Second World War, the WAAC exhibited its final display of works, this time at Burlington House in London, as the National Gallery's collection had returned. Opening on the 13th of October 1945, the exhibition included an astronomical collection of war art, over 1,000 drawings, paintings and prints, and 21 sculptures. Even more works were added into the November. The exhibition had 16,615 visitors over a 6-week period, which is just astounding. By the end of December 1945, the WAAC was being disbanded, and a new committee was formed with the task of dispersing the collection of 5,570 artworks, which had been collected through commissions, purchases, and gifts. Around half were dispersed to museums across the UK and the Commonwealth, and the other half were added to the Imperial War Museums collection, which included the WAAC archive containing all correspondence with war artists throughout the Second World War. But the Imperial War Museum's art collection does not just hold works that were commissioned by the WAAC. The second of IWM's loans to Touchstones Rochdale is Untitled by Eileen Agar, who actively did not want to be part of the WAAC scheme, despite several of her artist friends fulfilling commissions, such as Paul Nash and Henry Moore. She struggled to create artwork during this period in general, stating in her autobiography, "The war overwhelmed me. I felt it impossible to concentrate on painting when you could turn to look out of the window and see, as I once did, and Messerschmitts flying low over the treetops. Untitled is therefore a rare example of Agar's work relating to war, and is a response to the Battle of Britain in particular. The Battle of Britain was a pivotal moment in the Second World War, ending in a crucial victory for the Allied forces. However, during those fateful months in 1940, fear that the German Luftwaffe would succeed in breaking the RAF's defences was ever present. Untitled by Eileen Agar is a painting which explores this seemingly relentless threat, not just on the physical landscape of Britain and its inhabitants, but on British identity and history. Eileen Agar was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1899 and moved to Britain in 1911. She attended the Slade School of Art before studying in Paris, eventually settling in London in 1930. In this painting, an outline reminiscent of a prehistoric mammoth dominates the foreground. Ships' masts and rigging, small boats and shell-like shapes can be seen in the background alongside camouflaged RAF aircraft wings. The overall composition is framed by wavy blue shapes, perhaps in reference to the sea surrounding the island of Britain. This surrealist painting fuses both natural and man-made elements, and old and new, to bring together sea, land, air, and home. When I was first looking into Imperial War Museum's collection to see what might be suitable for loan, I came across this work and couldn't quite understand it. It was only when I looked into Agar's life and read her autobiography that it became much clearer. The Battle of Britain was fought over stretches of coastline which Agar frequented on holiday with fellow artists and friends. She spent much of her childhood in Dorset and would continue to visit as an adult. She enjoyed combing the beaches in search of organic material which would influence her sculpture, painting and collages. But by 1940, it was these very things she loved most about Britain that were under severe threat. So by presenting this colossal skeletal mammoth at the centre of her painting, I think Agar is posing a question. Is Britain going the way of the mammoth towards eventual extinction? But the presence of RAF aircraft wings counter this. They are a sign of hope. Their camouflage is akin to that of the land they were designed to protect. It seems that Agar was all too aware of the importance of the Battle of Britain and the impact defeat would have on the country she treasured. By the end of October 1940, the Battle of Britain was over, but artists continued to document, interpret and respond to the events of the Second World War, which now provides a vital record and first-hand link for generations to come. Imperial War Museum's art collection spans from the First World War to the present day and contains over 90,000 works, including paintings, prints, drawings, sculpture, textiles, photographs, videos and installations, as well as posters, postcards and ephemera. You can explore more at iwm.org.uk. Thank you so much for listening to me today. Artwork by Laura Knight, Francis Dodd, Ethel Gabain and Eileen Agar are currently on show at the We Can Do It War's Other Voices exhibition at Touchstones Rochdale until Saturday the 18th of September 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Paris. That was such an interesting talk. I particularly enjoyed seeing the archive material from IWM's collection in relation to some of the paintings in the exhibition. It was really, really interesting. The exhibition is open until 18th of September. It's free, so I hope you can all come and visit. And once again, thank you, Paris. Thank you very much.